kind of get frustrated maybe if they started losing a few rounds. But now, not so much the case. And, of course, well, I suppose LootBet supporting Gambit Youngsters as well quite heavily coming into this one. So they really are feeling it, our primary betting partners there. I don't know, Inferno, it was close last time, and I feel HELLRAISERS have had a few days, definitely could have put some work into it, so I'm not sure it'll be that one-sided, but we'll see. We'll see. The odds are very rarely wrong.
That is true. And at least for the Gambit Youngsters side, they are proving that to be the case, starting things off towards the top of Banana. Now, there is a really heavy stack into this B bomb site. Still 3 players here for the HELLRAISERS side. So if Gambit Youngsters continue their progression into the B bomb site, this could get a little bit ugly.
Certainly could. Flashes over the top. Problem. Oh, we're going to find the first. The player up on the boost actually not getting anything done. Meanwhile, Kalinka also only doing damage. Needed a bit more from the B defense here. Kalinka trying his best, but 1-on-4 not going to happen for him. And despite the stack, despite some really good positions that you know, boost at CT, boost at Nubox, bit of a crossfire kind of deal going on, not really able to do anything substantial on the HELLRAISERS side, I have to be honest.
Yeah, a little bit disappointing there. I think really on that CT defense, like they position-wise were set up perfectly to deal with the offensive take into B, but just not able to get the shots across. Now we saw Kalinka swinging out from CT. It was the last player to fall. He was really impressive against MIBR. He was probably the only player that was making big plays. We saw a big like 1-on-3 clutch from Kalinka. We saw him getting a couple of 3K rounds. So he certainly put up a decent performance. Again, like it's difficult to draw against on that best of 1 to bring it into this best of 3 because you're facing off against MIBR and that's a tier 1 team, and now you're facing off against Gambit Youngsters who haven't really had that experience in international events on LAN and what have you. So it is very different to pull from, but you've got to think from HELLRAISERS, they'd at least probably learnt a few things in that opening best of 1, had a little bit of time to maybe do some research going into this series. I'm really keen to see JR as well. I know his scout and his AWPing ability can be pretty sharp for this HELLRAISERS side.
Yeah, I feel they have a lot of potential on this HELLRAISERS team, to be honest with you. Like, there is the firepower there, and HELLRAISERS as an org, you know, they've had this rebrand recently. Say what you will about it, but to me, rebranding while you have a team under you and everything does feel like you have a bit of confidence in that team, that they can represent your rebrand, you know, and make you look good and whatnot. So yeah, I can kind of support where they're coming from, but at the same time, like you say, I think they have all the workings of a pretty decent side. Sometimes they just don't all come online at the same time, and that, yeah, ends up being a bit of a problem, really. But we'll see. Coming into this round, of course, Gambit Youngsters looking good. Axile takes massive damage from the nades there. They've drawn a player across from the A-bomb site to help out as well, only keeping them at bay. Meanwhile, Flarich, advanced position in the apartment. So they kind of are gathering a bit of information. He's only spotted 1. Doesn't want to recall the rotator from B, but, well, I mean, we know maybe he should. However, the pit hold, it can be dangerous. Can certainly be dangerous. And I think if they can, at the very least, stay alive, and now buy time for the rotation, they're in a pretty decent position to put up a fight.
Kalinka's just expecting some sort of backstab to come out from Speedway, but it really comes down to Lime and Flourish to try and defend as much as they can. Smoking off that pit position gives the idea that there's someone there on that city side, but Nafany's already spotted out 1, can swing down, and that is an easy couple of kills. Gambit Youngsters just swarming out to that A-bomb side. It doesn't really get much easier than that. All that information coming through from Nafany, dropping down, pulling distractions away. And a second round on the board for Gambit Youngsters. HELLRAISERS not really putting up too much of a fight over at that A-bomb site. And no, I think you're certainly right there, Scriv, in the fact that they have got a lot of elements for success. Maybe it just needs a little bit more time. I mean, Flarich was what, on the previous edition of the HELLRAISERS side, where for the rest of them all being sort of picked up together as a 4-man signing. And they've been together for what, sort of 4 months now. So they've had some decent amount of time together. I certainly think that individually they're pretty good. Problem picks up the secondary AWP. Kalinka picks it up too. We've seen Lime, like the young Russian, being able to put up some decent performances. But I think it just comes down with a bit more experience. The fact that they're competing in, you know, events like 9 to 5 and Malta Vibes, and being able to put up some decent results. Nothing like superb and fantastic, but as long as they're finding consistency, I think that's what they'll be looking at for most of this year.
Yeah, I think definitely going to take some time for them to break in. Obviously, HELLRAISERS, as a business, I think have done quite well, but as a team, maybe lacking in this lineup from where they have been in the past. It's not controversial to say. But as well, the playing field at the moment is so saturated with really good teams, and we're seeing that at the moment, right, with some of the upsets that have been coming in the past few days. Online Counter-Strike has seen a massive shift. How long does this stick around as the mainstay? Obviously, these teams, I would imagine, are going to be playing online Counter-Strike for a while yet, but still, the top-tier teams also here. So there's a chance, you know, to work your way in through some qualifiers, maybe. So definitely want to see some of that from HELLRAISERS. Upset potential is there for them. GAMBIT youngsters, meanwhile, I'd say like 2 or 3 steps ahead in the terms that they're not just an upset team. They're not just they've got potential. They're actually working on it, beating their compatriots, as it were, at the same kind of level really consistently, and then every now and then having a good result against a top tier team as well. So everyone's excited to see what this GAMBIT youngsters lineup can do, and hopefully, as we've been mentioning, hopefully that movement of Hobbit into the team is a good choice. Time will tell on that one. I feel like most people kind of hedging their bets with it, but as I've been talking, they've moved into the A-bomb site relatively uncontested, right? They found those 2 kills in apartments off screen, and then the rotations here have not really been able to find anything. So going as we would expect in the early portions of this game.
Yeah, look, it's been pretty simple for GAMBIT. I mean, another thing to kind of draw from is the fact of, you know, we've seen both of these 2 teams facing off against each other a few days ago, and the Inferno is picked again from HELLRAISERS. GAMBIT youngsters are on a 6-map winning streak of Inferno, so looking to see if they can contend that even further. A bit of damage done to JR, but no more than that is found, not a recovered weapon. So they'll be looking at getting the rifles up going into round 4. And for GAMBIT youngsters, we're kind of yet to sort of see any individual really popping off. It's been really simple these last few rounds. They've really been slowing it down. Now, one thing I certainly have noticed, and I don't think this is quite just the addition of Hobbit, but in comparison to what we saw from GAMBIT youngsters towards the beginning of the year, they were such a slow team. Like, their defaults on T-side, they would be running into sites at like 15, 20 seconds on the clock. That's something they've fixed over the last couple of months, and I'm really glad they have.
Yeah, I want to say they were playing Spirit, if I'm remembering correctly. They did actually have a couple rounds where they let the clock run down. So I feel like sometimes maybe it's a confidence thing that they fall back into that slower style. Certainly interesting to note on, though, that it's kind of like the core of where they came from and what they were comfortable with, in the same way that a lot of people kind of forget they rose to prominence on the likes of Mirage. Sometimes teams will pick it, and then they'll have one of those classic Mirage games and everything like that. So really, really strong squad, been together for a while. It makes for some exciting Counter-Strike. Oh, the flash is not quite timed perfectly. Hobbit does find that kill, but problem is indeed living up to his namesake. They've also got 3 players here very quickly onto the A-bomb site, so GAMBIT youngsters have their work cut out. It's a nice, interesting take towards Pit, giving themselves a lot of room to work with. Flash comes through, not good enough. Hobbit will find another frag, and well, they're coming in thick and fast now for the T side. Slow flank from Kalinka, and of course JR on his way, and Kalinka will catch Shiro off guard, but surely they should be able to clean this up in the 3-on-2.
You've got to think that even the save potential has got to be on the cards here for HELLRAISERS. 2-on-3, no money really in the reserve. They need to be able to get this retake together. And JR and Kalinka both coming in from the short line angle, and no one is peeking on the city side. No one is, or the T side, I should say. No one in this post plant from GAMBIT youngsters is giving up any kind of advantage. Off angle coming out from Axel towards the side. Kalinka going to try and jiggle pick his way in for some sort of entry. That's a big kill onto Axel, but Hobbit lines them both up to get the 4-0 start. GAMBIT youngsters looking pretty comfortable so far on T. And for HELLRAISERS, it looked really awkward there because there were a couple of players that were in the site itself, Scrib, that were just trying to play around the smokes. And then it gets to a point where they realize, hang on a minute, the smokes are starting to clear. We now need to get aggressive. And for GAMBIT youngsters, they were just so passive. They were just waiting for aggression.
Yeah, I mean, they were in control, right, after finding that advantage, and I feel that's the issue. We can see from, like, the bird's eye view and everything that we have available to us that going for it maybe not the best idea, because GAMBIT youngsters have so much of that control that HELLRAISERS are playing at like a man disadvantage, but just also a structural disadvantage to the retake. AWP in play as well, like it really didn't stack up in their favor, and I'm more of a fan of saving, having JR on that AWP, and maybe giving him the license to play aggressive in this round, surrounded by a few pistols and whatnot. Rush into banana, try and find an opening pick. I feel like that would be a really great call for him, but obviously that's not the option here, and actually he's only on a P250 where everybody else has purchased a little more. He's playing it super safe. So again, the threat coming into this round from HELLRAISERS could have been a lot more if they actually did save.
I'm a little bit more surprised that we haven't seen a lot more aggression from HELLRAISERS. They're a team on City Side Inferno that really like to get very hyper-aggressive down through mid and down through banana. But for the most part, we've seen pretty passive players coming out for the City Side. JR getting caught off guard with the timing, trying to pick up that deagle and fall back to the side. There's even a wraparound. How has Nafany been able to get in through Speedway and City Spawn?
Yeah, I'm not sure what's happened there. He's doubling back towards the A-bomb site. They're just making sure that he's clearing everything out. There's no one around, no one on the flank. Yeah, it's just the guy on B. You've got to deal with him, and that's it. They are on a bit of a timer here, but they'll just about start moving forwards in time. Shiro with the reactionary shot. Definitely was not expecting that player to be there, but of course, he's quick, he's clean. He will find the frag. Flarich does have a chance. Maybe he's left kind of low, but now he's got backup. And again, that slim window of opportunity for HELLRAISERS, just kind of escaping them. A tough round in that sense, but I'm sure they won't be too frustrated as it is only the half bite. Okay. Nice angle for Flarich to work with. Oh, and he nearly had it. Not going to be the case, though. Gambit youngsters up to 5 very quick here on Inferno.
I was seeing some pretty nice shots being hit from Shiro, and man, I'd love to see this guy in Tier 1 Counter-Strike, but the fact of the matter is, like, where does he go? That's the problem, is that being a CIS talent, no CIS team needs an AWPer at the moment. So whether he goes to an international team or just grinds it out for Gambit youngsters, I mean, you look at this lineup, they have been together for a very, very long time, if you sort of don't include the fact that Hobbit has just recently joined. But for the standard 5-man core, they've been together for quite some time. This is a lot quicker, though, coming out from Gambit youngsters. Something we haven't seen from them is just raw aggression.
Wow, a lot of damage taken from both sides. Honestly, the utility massive in between so many different angles. Inters through the smoke, through the wood there, is going to manage to find a cheeky headshot. My goodness, the quick start is indeed a little hard to keep up with, but it comes out on top of Gambit youngsters again. It seems at the moment they can't really do any wrong. Posting Axile up on the angle towards B, and then the rest of the boys going to move on to this A bomb site. Still 2 players here, so still certainly doable. That smoke comes in at a good time to just allow them a readjustment, and I do like this setup on top of each other, looking safe, looking comfortable. But as Axile moves in, it now becomes a much harder situation with, the 4-on-2 and, well, the call stack to rotate. Yeah, that's unlucky.
You feel for the guys. You really do. Gamble stacking up at that B bomb site, and Gambit youngsters, there's nowhere there's going to be. They've already opened up brackets. They've got hobbits in through the apartments, and they've heard all the utility and go, right, well, we just stacked up the wrong bomb site, but it's not the worst thing in the world. They can just save onto these 3 weapons and bring it into the next round. Gambit youngsters, though, Scriv, they have been undefeated so far in this opening map, going up 6-0. Where is the tactical pause here from HELLRAISERS? You've got to think, right, they've saved on to an AK, an AWP, and an M4, so they'll be able to get a buy into the next round. A couple of players will be able to drop some weapons. There'll be a max round loss bonus, so 3,400. Let's just say, like, Flarich and Problem could drop an M4, or even Lime, whoever it is, they can drop 2 M4s. But yeah, I'm getting a little bit worried now for the HELLRAISERS camp.
Yeah, it's kind of getting to that point where these rounds could be the difference in the end, right? The initial run that Gambit youngsters go on, and then HELLRAISERS, they pull 5 or 6 back, but it's just not really enough because, well, CS usually, and particularly these days, has those inevitable momentum shifts.
Yep.
And it can just be really difficult to get your foot in the door early on. And, well, they hear you, Dwayne. Timeout comes in. Maybe 1 or 2 rounds late, but it comes before a bye, so better late than never, I suppose.
Yeah, look, I don't mind it. Don't mind it at all. A good moment to just, put the thinking caps on. again, for Hellraisers, I haven't had the greatest of opportunities of casting these guys, only a handful of times the last couple of months, but at least from what I've seen from them on Inferno, they have liked to get very aggressive down towards Banana, very aggressive down mid. I'm not sure whether that's just because they're playing Gambit youngsters that they kind of want to play a different style of play, or whether that was just a couple of times that I've seen it, but it feels like for Hellraisers, they're being very pressured in playing safe. They're being very deep onto the sides. They're not taking a lot of map control on this city side. And I think they need to change things up a little bit.
Well, we'll see what the change is. JR taking a bit of an early peek, Shiro as well, but neither of them in each other's eye lines. Decent weaponry here across the board for Hellraisers, but certainly taking a safer approach. Kind of interesting, to be honest. 3 on B. They've been loving this, but, well, Shiro going to drop JR, and that might just honestly seal the deal early on. I feel like JR was their difference maker. They've moved him around the map, trying to take some aggressive peeks, but he's just not in the right position. He's just not fast enough, whatever it is. It ends up working against him. But maybe this is part of the buy, right? Is like, okay, we've got this AWP. Let's have a few different people that if someone dies with it, they can retrieve it, and then the AWP stays in play. However, with the man advantage, moving back towards A seems to be the correct call. They're going to be under threat. Does manage to get away after finding his frag. So into a 4-on-4. Oh, Inter's getting the nade out at the wrong time. Flarich, though, not able to find the frag. Hobbit as well going to clear the site. And there you are. The call to save comes in. 7th round for Gambit youngsters in a row.
And I tell you what, that was probably looking like the most awkward round we'd seen from Gambit youngsters yet, but it's still a victory. That's what we're talking about here. You know, there was a few players that were kind of caught off in through brackets of trying to deal with the deagle out from short, but this is just looking too simple. Like, yeah, there's a few kills that we're not quite seeing from our POVs, but it seems like Shiro is just constantly winning out fights and just not getting traded at all. A JR falls, Clinker picks up that AWP, doesn't do anything with it because Gambit youngsters end up pulling out from B and start to go for an A site execution. A Hellraisers map pick, this is becoming a point where it's getting out of control, and Scriv, after them just having a tactical, I didn't really see too much of a change up on the CT side.
Yeah, I'm not sure, right? There was kind of an approach into that round, obviously a little different, but I feel overall the change has to come in this round where they've got the full buy. Double up setup, I guess, right? It's really interesting what's happened to the economy as well, right? Like, it seems a little all over the place. Of course, shout out to Hellcase as they roll across the top there. Our case partner for this tournament, been supporting us the whole way through with those 2 codes, Malta V15. You get yourself a bit of extra cash, as well as a 15% refill bonus. There's a banner down below, takes you directly towards their website, which looks sick. I mean, give it a check out. And use the codes, of course. Either way, back into the action, we see some early nade damage onto Inters, but other than that, it's a relatively quiet start.
This is a very heavy stack out from short. They've got like a triple player setup here around the short position of a defense. And again, Gambit youngsters really slowing it down. Haven't been able to bait out any utility just yet from the city side, considering there hasn't really been any sort of movement or any util for the T side into at least attempting to take brackets control just yet. Tell you what, they're actually lining themselves up like they want to go for a bit of an apps pop and sort of swing onto the short players. That could actually be the perfect setup.
Oh, yeah, looks like it. So far, able to find one, being broken apart pretty quickly here, though. Yeah, and Flarich in between a rock and a hard place. Nearly keeping it even. They needed one more. I think there was one player in there that didn't find a frag of his own. If he had, maybe we believe a little more in this. And, well, Problem and Kalinka do have the cash available. But once again, a 2-on-3, a difficult spot, AWP on the retake, no info to work with. You just really don't fancy their chances. And I think they, too, don't fancy their chances massively. Just hanging around on the outskirts of the bomb site here, trying to find a cheeky pick that might give them the chance. But, of course, Gambit youngsters not biting. Playing nice and safe. Shiro going to ditch the AWP so they can't get the secondary AWP. No chance at all. But we see another round coming in from Gambit youngsters. So far, flawless. And I guess the guys at Loot Bet are onto something. The last time they played Inferno, it was pretty close, a little tit for tat. But so far, Hellraisers just not finding their groove at all.
I feel for the guys, because if there was just a standard brackets control, then 3 players in Porch, Top Flowers, and in Quad, they probably shut that down. Like, they've got a really nice setup there. But as soon as the app pops come through, you see the apps players starting to swing onto the short players as well as brackets, and the 3 players just don't know where to look. Are we looking towards brackets? Are we looking towards site? Where are we supposed to look? And it's just chaos. The Gambit youngsters 8-0 against Hellraisers. This is starting to get out of control now. And you've just got to think for Hellraisers, like, when are we going to see a round on the board for these guys?
Well, yeah. Couldn't come sooner, really. And like I've said, man, they have to probably get a foot in the door now and keep it going for the rest of the half, because the 8 in a row, I just think it's enough. Like, I don't mean to talk down the map already, but this should, like, this is now Gambit youngsters' game to lose, basically. So it's on to them. Oh my goodness, Inters. I don't know, they've made some kind of deal with the devil today as well, to be honest, because they have had some very lucky moments. Meanwhile, Hellraisers have had some very unlucky moments. And that's just one of many. Inters surviving on 3 HP somehow. Not even sure how he does that, but all the same, still alive. And I don't even think JR is aware of the fact that they've... not JR, sorry, Kalinka is aware of the fact that they've found the tag, to be honest. Crazy stuff. JR, meanwhile, speaking of, is trying to hold things down here. Oh, not ready for them to come around the corner. Misses the flick. Anthony will drop him. You can just see a little flat. Maybe not as warm as they need to be for this matchup.
HE into the pit. They are running the clock down incredibly low. They do need to get this bomb to the site, because they still got to deal with Problem that gets a couple of kills. And this could finally be a round up for the Hellraisers camp. Axel's now in a 1-on-3. Hang on a minute. No, there's more players alive. There is going to be a bomb blank coming out from Inters. A 1-on-2 now with the AWP no-scope coming through and Kalinka on the back line. I'll tell you what, that was actually a really, really big round coming out from Problem. And for Gambit youngsters, yeah, look, there were a couple of mistakes there being made on the T side. But all in all, that just comes down to them running down the clock too low. And the CT is just having a really strong defensive.
Yeah, well, I suppose falling back once again into that old classic... super slow. I'm not really sure, you know, they get that control at long. I feel like they should have bursted out at that point, but yeah, taking their sweet time. And Hellraiser's able to play off of that fact. Some nice individual performances as well as just timing working out for them.
A little bit quicker this time. This could be a rush, actually, from Gambit youngsters into this mid control. A lot quicker. We have not seen this. Look at the utility damage already starting to come through. JR incredibly pressured, completely blind, and he is having such a rough time out from long.
Yeah, he really, really is, man. This is the complete opposite of whatever last round was. Flarich with the immediate trade coming in. Hobbit, yeah, millisecond earlier denies that frag. I'm not really able to do anything from the back end of the site either. So 4-on-2, B rotators trying to fight their way in. They will manage to find the first, and they're here quite quickly. So I feel all the strong post plants and everything, they're not quite going to be there just yet on the Gambit youngsters side of things. But Molly coming in again, AWP on the retake. I don't know, they look like they kind of want to save, but also we have to take the risks. We just have to go for it. You never know. Nice little nade. The frag coming in for Kalinka. Inters, though, is in a perfect position for this. Should be able to close it out. No, Problem actually drops him really quickly after the fact, but he turns his back. Shiro with the perfect timing, of course. Able to drop him into the 9th for Gambit youngsters. Hellraisers just, again, can't catch a break. They get their one round. That one comes so close. But it is Gambit youngsters ultimately who are in the driver's seat, and they're driving real fast. I don't think Hellraisers, you know, are strapped in at all. Really not ready for this at the moment.
Cruise control's on, you know, past the speed limit. No, honestly, like, JR's got to be so frustrated because he's had the AWP in his hand so often and he's just not found impact with it. He's just so blind out from long time and time again. Here's the aggression that I was talking about, down towards mid, very fast coming out from Liam, and finally we see something different coming out from Hellraisers. They get a couple of kills to open up. There should be some trades back, but it's still a man advantage being held from the CT side. They're in a great position to win out this round now.
Yeah, they really are. so much control at middle. And also the fact that Nafany is on half HP, so really going to be tough for Gambit youngsters. The first time I think that they've had a moment where they step back and they go, okay, we have to try and recover this round. You know, the one round that was won by HELLRAISERS, it all seemed to happen at once. And they came out on top, right? Just, I think, due to Gambit youngsters not giving themselves enough time and being panics on the attack. This round, though, is a clear kind of, okay, 2v3, what have we got available? Where can we go? What information did we gain off of all the players that we lost? They are going to try and walk their way in towards the B-bomb site. Oh, it's passive angles as well. Ilium giving them a lot of room to work with. He will peek out, though, and finds them both. Wow. Thought surely he would get traded, but has created the room, that kind of a deal. But no, he actually steps up for a big 2K, securing another round for HELLRAISERS. Still not a terrible half in and of itself, okay? If they can bring this back to 5 or 6, I think they can be really, really happy with that. But Gambit youngsters so far ahead, so much cash, they can take pauses of their own, and this is more of a technical in nature, but all the same, they could take a tactical and just hold on to this lead with, you know, all the grip possible to them.
I'm not really sure what happened there, because Finn just joined the city side, the coach of Gambit youngsters. So they were having like a, maybe he was just saying, okay, maybe I'll give you guys a little bit of help. I'll just we'll play 6v5. But no, like for HELLRAISERS, yeah, you've got to think that going into this map, like obviously before the pistol, before anything, they'd probably be looking at saying, okay, we start CT, maybe let's try and put like 8 or 9 rounds up, considering it's our map. But now you look at the standpoint and thinking, right, 4 is probably unrecoverable. 5 or 6 is doable if we get off to a good start on T, but I think they need at least 5 as a minimum. I think if they get 4, you're pretty much giving too much over for the Gambit youngsters side, and just responses need to come in. I think that was a good change of pace from HELLRAISERS. It's been very slow. It's been very methodical from Gambit youngsters. Haven't really done anything aggressive outside of that one play where they just ran into A. It has been very slow defaults on the T side. So HELLRAISERS were able to find a little bit of an opening there, getting aggressive in that last round and put their second on the board. But they need more script. They certainly need to just climb into this game.
Almost in the smoke there for Shiro. Definitely close. HELLRAISERS looking a lot more confident. What is... I guess he gets naded? I mean, surely, or sprayed down. I didn't quite catch, but nonetheless, that's... I'm just trying to see where Hobbit is. I'm not sure. But then looking at it, the only person who could have possibly thrown a nade is Axel. Maybe Nafany throws one. No, but then he threw the Molotov that got the kill. Either way, JR gonna come in for a double. A confusing opening to this round. Shiro's in position to find the trade. And the 3 versus 2 will come through. Once again, Gambit youngsters in control. They do drop around, but HELLRAISERS cannot string them together. At least yet, unless Problem and Kalinka have got something else to say about this one. Coming in from B. Also a bit from Banana, not to be expected, but then Axel's just still chilling around at brackets, able to drop another, and I feel Problem now the 1 versus 3 is much less likely. Unless they walk in backwards, you know, could be a good time for him. However, mulling him out, they know exactly where he is now. Bomb about halfway gone, and yeah, he's just going to take the AWP and back away. So Gambit youngsters will be hitting double digits pretty early on into this first half. And like I said, HELLRAISERS still struggling to get the 2 in a row.
They've only had singular rounds, right? They have not been able to win more than 1 in a row. And I'm pretty sure it was the Molly, a HE, and then Spam. So for Flarage, like, when you've got all 3 of those together, there's just nothing. Like, there's nothing you can do against that. JR does get a few trades in through Boiler, but then as soon as he gets taken out, they just run into that A-bomb site. They leave Axel to cut off any of the rotators out from Banana. And the money is looking slightly awkward. They are able to force another AWP, but Flarich and Lime don't have a lot, so they're going to be on MP9s. Man, even for HELLRAISERS, they've just never been able to have a stable economy on this CT side. They've been working off the back of the loss bonus, but considering they haven't won a lot of rounds, it's just never been stabilized at all.
Utility rings out in Banana. Again, got to commend JR for continuing to try and, you know, find those early frags, but nothing really coming his way. He has had a really tough time, to be honest. Like, missing or not having the opportunity arise from those early shots, that's fair. Okay, there we go. Spoke too soon. He will take a swing and take down Shiro. Pretty big name, actually, to be dropping, of course, for that Gambit youngsters side. Flaric, meanwhile, finding another. So here we go. 5 on 3. Pretty decent stuff.
That's what we want to see. We want to see a little bit of a counter coming back, and it looks like now Lime's going to be chiming in with a kill himself. JR getting a little bit of self-confidence, which is certainly needed for the series. And Gambit youngsters certainly have come back from some deficits, but I don't think this is going to be one. Now, one thing, Scriv, that we have seen between these two sides the last few rounds is back and forward rounds. Kalinka gets taken out, problem, lines him up. So only one person goes down, keeping the economy strong, just picking up that second AWP too. And it's getting a little bit awkward now with these back and forward rounds.
Yeah, I suppose the fact that they're coming towards the end of the half is not too detrimental, financially speaking. But to be fair, if HELLRAISERS can find this one, it might be a tough time for Gambit youngsters in the next round, at least to find the AWP again, which is something that we really do not see very often on the T side of Inferno, but they seem really happy to go for it here on that Gambit side. Whether that's a full-on game plan, whether that's because they were feeling confident, I don't think they went for it immediately, right? Like in those early rifle rounds, I think it is just because they had so many rounds in the lead. Shiro may well have asked if he's allowed. And to be fair to him, he is the lowest fragger on their side. Not that it's, you know, incredibly detrimental or whatever. He's only on 5 deaths, which generally speaking kind of means he's just not been in as many gunfights as some of the other players. But all the same, not popping off massively with that T-sided AWP. So I'm interested to know why they're pulling it out so much here on the T side of things. I kind of get it maybe if you go a round or two behind, or you drop a round or two, but they've not really been doing that. So curious.
Over towards Banana. Kalinka's getting boosted up. Now, there is a T-side player just on top of this broken wall position. That is a good shot coming out from Kalinka, and a much-needed frag because HELLRAISERS have struggled in terms of opening man advantages. Yeah, there's been a lot of damage in terms of utility for both Kalinka and Problem, but that's an advantage that HELLRAISERS can work with.
Any kind of advantage they will take, of course. Still going to be committing to this B bomb site here on the Gambit youngsters side, or at least trying to sell the fact. No, they will be moving forwards with it. 2 very aggressive positions coming in here. Oh, not going to work out though. Problem looked like he could have had a couple. Won't be the case. However, 3 on 3. Still definitely doable here for HELLRAISERS as they look to move in. Plenty of utility and kits available. Meanwhile, on the Gambit youngsters side, actually running out of utility now. Just the one smoke. Flaric still floating around on A, thinking that there's a member of that Gambit youngsters squad still around. So a lot of time being taken here by the CTs before they have to, wait for that third man to come in. The clock is ticking. They've barely made any ground. It's not looking too good. Shiro holding his angle down, able to take out JR. The boost as well being watched for. Shiro does come in with a big double in this round. I kind of called him out at the start of it, but he looks pretty solid there. And a nice bait and switch in the end. Gambit youngsters move up to 11. HELLRAISERS just looking very lost in that retake.
Yeah, no, I don't want to be that guy, but man, that was messy. That was a really messy retake. First of all, Flaric takes so long to get into position because he's waiting for a flank or some sort of backstab to come out from Gambit youngsters. And second of all, they've got like a weird pool, like Hobbit smoke, where there's a bit of a gap for the player on the T side to work with, but yeah, it doesn't really help them. A lot of the time, you normally see like a molly for Nubox, smoke for Banana. It just seemed like it was very rushed to come out from HELLRAISERS once they were in position. And that's really not what we want to be seeing from them on their map pick. 3 rounds is maybe the max that they'll get in this first half, Scriv, because we're going into round 15, and they don't have the best buys in the world.
Not even close.
Oh, what? How has that happened?
Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, my goodness. That just really sums it up.
It really does. This is a rough day for HELLRAISERS.
Yeah. And I think the thing is, it's like when it rains, it pours. You have 1 or 2 of those, and if you can't get through it, both mentally and I suppose physically in a sense. But yeah, we've had a lot of moments for HELLRAISERS like that, and I think they're just really feeling the burn. Problem, his position going to be known inside that smoke. They do try and flash him out, but not going to work in the end. Kalinka sat here on B. They'll rotate one across. I feel like with this being the last round of the half, you've got a weaker buy. Just gamble it. You might as well. There's no point playing reserve, but play reserve they will. It might be the correct call, but I don't think so. Gambit youngsters are so comfortable in themselves. 30 seconds left. Sure, not showing any presence just yet, but still, they'll start to move in now, and the rotations will come in, but Kalinka has to find like 2 frags here to make this round doable, and on 30 HP with a P250, he does well to get one. Traded back real quick, though. 4 on 2. I'm sure these remaining 2 M4s would love to save, but of course, not able to do so. Should be a 12 for Gambit youngsters, all things considered here. We'll see. They might be able to pull something out of their backside, but I'm not so sure. They're really not finding any grounds, and yeah, just getting peeked by like 3 players at once. It's not going to happen. Gambit youngsters left CT open to take the fight to them, and 12 for Gambit youngsters. I am a little surprised. Dust 2 I could see possibly going this way, but Inferno, not so much.
I'm a bit more than a little bit surprised. I think this just been such a poor performance from HELLRAISERS and such a slow start, which is really disappointing after being able to put 10 rounds up against MIBR. Now you go into Euro map pick in the Group C elimination match, and you're down at this deficit already. It's not a great sign at all. You've got to think that there are certainly going to be some tough words, I don't know, some not angry players, but like there's certainly got to be something to talk about. Look at those odds though, like 9.2 for HELLRAISERS on their map pick, Scriv. Like that really says it all.
Yeah, they really do know what they're doing. I kind of doubted them on those initial odds that were quite heavily in favor of Gambit youngsters, but obviously they know what they're talking about. Either way, minute and 20 left. A little bit of action in the apartments, but no frags as yet. Gambit youngsters also liking their B-bomb side, but playing it slightly differently. The rotation will come in nice and quick. However, the pit hold, okay, has to stand strong. I'm not quite sure what's happened here. Inters surely should have been dead to rights, to be honest. He gets spotted very early, takes an awkward fight against Flarich, and yet is able to get away. So somehow we're hearing a 4-on-4 that now is swaying in favor of Gambit youngsters. Spoke too soon, of course, but the bomb's out in no man's land. They eventually get it across. They eventually are going to get it down, but not before the gap has closed massively. Kit available for Nafany. Smoke starting to dissipate. The 3-on-3 definitely looking doable. Oh, that's an awkward one. Shiro does actually manage to find the player eventually, but JR, Kalinka both coming in. Hobbit now the only one left, and he's got to go into 2 of them. How does he survive that? Kalinka, oh, thank goodness, takes his time, finds the headshot eventually, and then he will secure the pistol for HELLRAISERS, but it's not without its heart-wrenching moments.
It really wasn't. I'm gonna be honest, that was like that entire round I was just getting cringe feelings, because like you just didn't know what was gonna happen there. It was looking a little bit awkward for HELLRAISERS, especially with the fact that Hobbit is somehow able to swing out from the apartments, get into mini pit before eventually falling down to Kalinka. Wow, there is a lot of SMGs out for HELLRAISERS. 4 MAC-10s and an AK, and already JR has taken so much damage.
Yeah, maybe dangerous, actually. Hobbit smokes himself off, able to stay in this sandbags position a little while longer. More nade damage coming in. Really looking good. And it slows back down. That works for Gambit youngsters. 5-on-5 still with heavily tagged up players. One of them slightly tagged up on the HELLRAISERS side with a scout and a number of deagles. This is doable for Gambit youngsters. HELLRAISERS are really going to have to pull something out, pull all the stops out, really. They do at the moment have a small advantage in the sense that, of course, you know, the B-bomb site is where most of those Gambit youngsters guys are at, but still, as soon as they start to show a bit of presence, I would imagine the rotations come back in.
No one's really on a quick rotation from the B-bomb side to A. It looks like it's just going to be an apps pop to come out from HELLRAISERS. Comes down to the 2 defenders on the site. Inters and Axel. That's the first single kill coming through. Not the follow-up. Axel gets away with 2 kills. 3-on-3. Gambit youngsters still in for the retake.
Looking good here, but not ready for Kalinka. Great position for him and a massive frag to be finding. Repositions immediately. Nafany will slightly overkill with the headshot, but all the same. Back into a 2-on-2. It's now an AK recovered for Nafany. Time is against them. And I mean, they have plenty in the game itself. So it looks like they're looking at the bigger picture rather than the round itself, and will just move to go for exits. Save will come in a few seconds. And they will find themselves an AK, particularly into that next round. The scout as well. They could work in tandem pretty well together. Ooh.
Oh,
okay,
that's big.
Shiro, there you go. Yeah, that's another frag coming in. Surviving with only one player is actually kind of big. I mean, they have a lot of rounds to play with. They might just buy back into this one. Be a bit crazy, but...
I'm thinking that. Like, if I'm GAMBIT youngsters, I'm forcing again, because you've just been able to not win out the round, but how many players go down on that HELLRAISERS camp is making this economy line very, very awkward. Doesn't look like they are going to go for the complete force. They're upgrading a little bit of weaponry here and there. But you look at the reserve. Now, yeah, the buy's up, and it's a MAC-10, it's an AWP, and it's an AK, but every single player outside of Problem is less than $1,000. That's a good opening coming out from JR, dealing with that scout of Shiro immediately. And for the most part, it's normally been Shiro that's winning out the fights against JR, so it's good to see that finally there's one that sort of tiptoes the other way.
Yeah, I think it is good for them, particularly going into a map like Dust 2, to have a bit of confidence rolling. Another frag coming in. So, little do they know it, but they have an MTA bomb site. However, it seems they might be overthinking themselves a little bit. Surely the 5-on-3, they should be able to find it, but we do have a somewhat unorthodox boost here at Dark. Could be problematic. Certainly more damage on the cards. Nafany able to find the head of Problem. That drops the bomb. I think they're kind of unsure where the frag came from. Inters 2 on the P250. What is happening? The bomb's out in no man's land. Low HP for Kalinka. A reposition from Nafany, and they have to come to the CT side. This has gone from great to terrible. I am really not sure how we ended up here. Nafany with a great angle to possibly find JR as he is just creeping around. JR with the key headshot. However, Inter's still alive with his blessed P250. Lands a few more shots, but can't convert. That's so unlucky, but my goodness, for just a second there, you do believe.
How did the comms give them that information? They knew that there were 2 players left, and he was boosted to Dark. Oh, man, that's so frustrating, because that round could have been so much more simple than what it was. Nafany got away with so much. Intis gets away with a couple of kills with his pistol. Oh, my goodness. Oh. Well, you've got to think that going into Dust 2, no matter what the scoreline is here, that HELLRAISERS need to be able to fix up their mistakes, because I think that's been one of their biggest downfalls. It's not the fact, oh, you know, they're not being sharp, or maybe the utility placement isn't the best. It seems like miscommunication is probably one of the biggest things we're seeing here. GAMBIT youngsters, as soon as they go into the buy round, they've got M4s to work with, they've got kits, pretty much full utility sets, AWP onto Shiro. They're looking to instantly respond in this second half.
Well, let's see what they've got. HELLRAISERS coming in with a lot of speed. So many nades once again from GAMBIT youngsters. It's an absolute mess. His Problem just spraying wildly. Hobbit, though, cool, calm, and collected, is able to drop him. Another one coming in off the back of the nades. Flarich left on 14 HP. Shiro drops Kalinka. They've been read like a book in this round, Dweg. GAMBIT youngsters have got themselves a solid 3-man advantage in the first 20 seconds of the round.
You know when you're watching a movie, Scriv, and you know you've got yourself a big bowl of popcorn, you know you're eating it through the movie, and then you look down and it's all gone? That's like what happened in this round just here. They try to take banana control, the nades come back to hit them, Shiro chimes into the action, and this round is just done. It's absolutely gone. JR and Flarich in a 2-on-5, and even Flarich is so low on 14 points of health.
All quiet here. As HELLRAISERS will, well,
try and save? Like,
yeah, I'm not sure. Attempt to do what they can, but that's not an awful lot. So yeah, I think save, particularly with the open players, got to be the argument. Kind of an anticlimactic end to the round, I suppose. But it is the way it goes from time to time. There you go, JR going to break the silence. Drop Shiro. Not a bad name to be taking, and of course the AWPer, so they need to make sure that they recover that. Don't really have enough cash. And he's watching it intently. Not completely posted up on it, but going to try and deny it away. Not able to do so, though. And Gambit youngsters move up to 13. HELLRAISERS $1,400 comes in, so really not able... Well, obviously the two of them survive and get nothing, but the rest of the squad also not able to buy anything. So what do you do here? Yeah, just force. You've got a double eco anyway on some of those players. You may as well try and even out the economy and just go for it. A Hail Mary play from HELLRAISERS to essentially keep them in the game, I feel.
Go big or go home. Seeing if they can find anything with this sort of awkward buy. 3 players up towards the top of Banana on the city side. Axel gets flashed out from mid, doesn't see anything. Banana players don't see anything either, so they're going to rotate a 3rd player back to A. Can pretty much assume, okay, we haven't seen anything mid, we haven't seen anything Banana. Probably be some apps control taken. And they'll know that JR is here towards the bottom of Banana 2. 3 players at this A bomb site. The AWP of Shiro is also defending at A. Around that short position, HELLRAISERS taking the brackets control. Now need to go for the execution.
Needs to be successful. Hunting down Axel as they'll try and wrap in towards B, it looks like. For now, going to attempt to overwhelm him, and they will. 4-on-4 coming in. Now into a 4-on-3. Actually looking pretty good here. Hobbit also getting overwhelmed. Not expecting, I guess, the entire team to just be stacked on top of each other. So, not working out too well. And Gambit youngsters, cash not quite there, of course. Still kind of early on into the second half. The HELLRAISERS force them to save. Get a 7th. That key round that they needed to win, they will indeed do it.
It was a little bit awkward there for the youngsters because they kind of got drawn into fighting from the anchors at B. They sort of like started rotating in to try and at least take fights onto the speedway wraparound through CT spawn, rather than just holding a very strong defensive at B and playing quite deep into the site. And I would certainly say that this matchup so far, out of maybe any of the groups I've seen so far in week 9 of Multipliers, probably been the slowest, right, on T. Like, we've had some really slow rounds for Gambit youngsters in this first half, some pretty slow rounds for HELLRAISERS into the second half. We haven't really seen a lot of aggression from CT or T side. It's been just both teams playing very passive.
I mean, maybe part of their play style. I'm not sure. Like, Gambit youngsters do seem to be falling back into it a little bit more. Like I said, when they were playing against Spirit.
Yeah, a couple of days ago or yesterday, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I think it was yesterday. They were also playing really slow and passive. So I don't know if it's just kind of for them down to the fact that it feels a bit more comfortable, a bit easier to work their head around with the newer edition, or maybe it's just Hobbit style coming in. Either way.
What?
Whoa, Inters in behind. What has happened there? And then Flarich, like, doesn't join his teammate. That's an absolute mess. Shiro going to drop problem as well. And these issues that plagued them on the CT side have also crept into the T side a little bit. Solid advantage for Gambit youngsters.
I love it how they've saved an M4 and an AWP in the last round, and those are the 2 weapons that get the opening kills. HELLRAISERS trying to go quick into the B-bomb side. Oh, they're pushing the banana smoke. Nafany with a CZ is only going to be able to find nothing. Hobbit with the trade. Shiro straight through the smoke, because why not? He hits absolutely everything today. And JR realistically just needs to try and get a bomb plan. 1-on-4. A lot of damage done to the CT side. Good shot onto Inters, but he needs to follow up with a little bit more. Bomb. Faked out to draw the CTs out into the open. No one's peeking. JR isn't going to be able to find anything with it. And he's waiting for an overextension, trying to look out towards this banana position. May even try and go further into CT. Hobbit, jiggle peeking the angle with the Deagle. AWP does connect. The trade does come through for Shiro to find the 14th. HELLRAISERS First of all, they've been reset. Second of all, that round looked pretty awkward. That just, what happened in brackets there?
Yeah, a little wild. Really did look disconjointed. And like I say, I feel Flarich was supposed to join in on the action and get the trade, but he didn't. So yeah, it ended up being an untraded frag, which is kind of the worst case scenario for Hellraisers, particularly when they're against a team who in that round have very little to play with. You should be beating them there. And then they walk straight into the crosshair of the orb. I think a panicked recovery for that kill on middle. So yeah, a mess that just didn't seem to end.
I don't know how you recover from this. I think that they're just in too big of a deficit. Even though their T side's looking decent. They've already been able to put, what, 4 rounds up on T. So they have been able to bring it back slightly. But after losing a round like that and looking at the economy and just ecoing here means that you're going to be giving up a 15th round to Gambit youngsters. And a big difference in terms of the scoreline, Scriv, of what we saw from these two guys only a couple of days ago. Especially on this map, at least.
Yeah, and doesn't bode well moving into Dust 2, right? Where it was 16-5 those few days ago. Very one-sided stuff. So I feel that may well be doomed to repeat itself. And I think as far as the series itself goes, it was going to be tough for Hellraisers overall, but certainly needed to be picking up the first map. And now they're in a really tough forcing in. Okay, Hobbit, I guess, didn't have a smoke available, does burn down, so that's one thing. Now they're moving real quick towards the A-bomb site, but of course, who is here? It is Shiro. He finds one, and that's all he needs to get. Just his very presence is enough to scare them away. They'll try and move in through short. Axile, also pretty formidable. Not much damage off the back of the nade. Takes a lot from those pistols. Does manage to get one before being dropped. Shiro clearing all his angles before he goes for the peek here, and, well, smoked off, so just trying to ring some random shots. Nothing landing. The rotations have come in. 3-on-3, certainly doable. Are they feeling it, though? It looks like it. Creeping through towards short. I think they recognize that, like, the weaponry and whatnot is slightly weaker. You have JR with no armor, although he manages to get a frag. So, ultimately all good. P250 for Flarich, now smoked off. This is nice. Isolation of that side player for Inters. He wins the fight. The defuse will be coming in just a second. Flarich has got to try and stop it with the P250, and Shiro, his cover, is clean enough. Gets the trade. The defuse will come in, I think, just about, right? Just about over the line. The 15th for Gambit youngsters. It's awfully close for Hellraisers, but again, the story of this game, not able to get it done. It is Gambit youngsters just continuing to edge out their opponents.
That was a bit of a wacky round from Hellraisers. So they ended up, what, running up B, take down Hobbit. There was so much utility to go right. We're going to go back. We're going to go through long, and then they go right. Shiro's here. We're going to go back to short. They ended up just changing their game plan like so many times in that round. They end up making it pretty damaging to the economy. Get a bomb plan, take a couple of players down on CT side, and now it's just a rush out towards Banana. The CT side very aggressive from Nafany, and that's an opening fight that works out really nicely for the T's.
Yeah, not bad at all. They don't get away unscathed, but I'm sure they will be happy to have themselves a lead, and leaving Shiro on 5 HP, also a pretty decent result. Just moving back into... a quick approach on B, or at least they're trying to sell that fact. Meanwhile, the bomb has crept its way into apartments. Gambit youngsters are very unsure. Defense split, very vulnerable on this A-bomb site for sure. Not really stacked on top of each other or a super clean crossfire. They will move into one. This should definitely be workable. Inters, though, mollied out, flashed out, and taken down. All onto Axel to hold it down on the site itself. Managed to find one, but eventually outflanked. Meanwhile, Hobbit falls on that rotation. So Shiro takes one. He'll look to back away and save that AWP and try and win the map in another round.
And I tell you what, the rotations from B actually came in really quickly. They just ended up smoking off top Banana and just sort of gamble stacking A. Now, if the defenders at A would have been able to hold on for maybe 5 more seconds, then Gambit youngsters would have been able to put up a pretty good defensive hold, at least in terms of positioning. But it was just timed perfectly from Hellraisers. And we saw a flying Kalinka out from the apartments, gets a couple of kills. Shiro, we're just holding on to this orb. Hellraiser's going hunting, but not in the right direction of where Shiro is. He's quite far away. What's the money looking like for the CTs? You'd expect that it's... Yeah. Okay, so they got 1,400, so... they'll get 1,900 next round. Now, Hobbit, Axel, and Shiro will be able to buy next round. Enters and Nafany will have a little bit more of a difficult time, so they might even try and force the issue here. Have a look what they go for. At the same time, though, they don't want to be giving sort of too many rounds up for Hellraisers to just sort of allow a comeback to come through.
Yeah, I mean, that is fair, right? And making quick work of them, like we say, moving into Dust 2 would be really good, just to get in their heads, really.
Yeah.
But less likely to be the case. We'll see, in this round at least, we'll see. The last time that there was a round like this, obviously it went quite well for Gambit youngsters, but only the AWP, I'm not as confident, right? They're gamble stacking that B-bomb site somewhat. The A site going to be very vulnerable now, with only Shiro around, and I think he wants to try and escape and back away and once again save this AWP into the next round. So with that one frag, that is going to be all she wrote for round number 24. Hellraisers up to 9, just like that.
Starting to bring it back now, Scriv. Unfortunately, though, for Hellraisers, is that Gambit youngsters are already up to 15, and that probably comes off the point of just not giving yourself enough breathing room off the back of that first half. You know, only getting 3 rounds on T sides, it's not enough. And for Hellraisers, you know, they can be exceptional from here on out to try and get to round 30, but all it's going to take from Gambit youngsters is an Inters or a Shiro to find an opening kill, and then that round just sort of completely falls apart. At least for Hellraisers, you know, get to double digits, maybe try and put up 10, 11, 12 rounds, however close they make it, just to give them some confidence going into Dust 2, because really, to just get swept is not a great feeling, especially on your map pick. So a little bit of confidence, a little bit of belief, and if they can work on that, then I think that they can bring this comeback at least a little bit further.
Certainly giving Gambit youngsters a good run for their money. Maybe a couple more rifle rounds, we start to believe.
Yeah, I'd say so.
All right. See whether they can get it done. Time will tell. 3 in towards Banana once again from Gambit youngsters. A lot of nadage from both sides as per usual. Hobbit takes the brunt of it, but it's not a world-ending amount. Right? They take those initial fights, try and indeed find an early frag, but it doesn't come for either side. And costs a fair amount of utility, particularly for the T end of things, I would say. They've got enough to mount and execute both on B and A, but all the same, not really finding too much for the amount that they spent with all those nades.
Shiro baiting out an AWP shot, or at least the T's baiting one out for him. Brackets control. Gambit youngsters very, very passive in this A bomb site. Now, Hellraiser's looking like they want to turn up the tempo a little bit, get the short control. Motor smoke coming out for JR, and it really just comes down to the defensive hold. What can Gambit youngsters bring? Because Shiro's now smoked off from Moto. There's no way that he can assist the teammates. 2 of them in towards a pit. They haven't checked it out just yet. Axel finds one. Needs to find a little bit more, Scriv.
He's looking for it. Will manage to indeed find a little bit more. Still alive, despite the fact that the bomb has gone down. Cutting off pit, they try and get aggressive on the other side of that bomb site, unsuccessfully. Nafany finding one. Kalinka with the jumping shot. He was already left a little bit low, but all the same, looks kind of funny. Kalinka finding another. All going to be onto Axel here, in towards the pit. They're so low. 1 bullet onto each of these players could get the job done. Flarich, though, trying to play in and around the pillar, finds him in the head, and Hellraisers stay alive for another round.
That's huge. That's a massive round from Hellraisers. And yeah, look, that was a bit interesting for Kalinka getting a kill mid-air, but for Flarich on the side just denying so much time. We saw there was no kit on the remaining player. Okay. Now they've got to 10. Moneyline is going to be an eco to get a buy up in round 27. I think for Gambit youngsters, pressure probably starts to build if they lose the following round, I would say. If they can give 12 rounds up to HELLRAISERS, I think that's when added pressure starts to build.
Yeah, I feel that. Looking crisp and clean on this T side, though. Definitely interesting to see that both teams have more prominence on the T side of things. I think Inferno has seen a little bit of a shift. Tends to be more T-sided these days at this kind of level. I know in NA they consider it to be more T-sided. Ooh, Axel getting away with 2 there. I could definitely see the 1 from him. That's fair enough, right? Overwhelming. There was a lot of them at the top end of Banana. But getting the second, relatively big. Doesn't matter all that much, of course, because once HELLRAISERS lose a round, they've lost the game. But all the same, he gets himself $600 with the kill bonus.
Not bad. Got to think as well. Would have been an opportunity too if they were able to do maybe a little bit more damage to recover one of those T-sided weapons, but it's not going to happen. Now, Axel, does he want to go double orbs? Now, for HELLRAISERS, don't remember seeing it. Actually, no, we saw it maybe like 2 or 3 rounds in that first half of Kalinka and JR. I just don't really remember it seeing a lot of impact because it didn't really find any. But Axel had enough money to go for that secondary AWP on that CT side and maybe give it over to a teammate and trade out for an M4, but he's decided to go for an M4 himself. And you've got to think this is really where an in-game leader like Hobbit, with the experience that he has, can really start to sort of mold a victory over the next few rounds, because it is kind of choking a bit of a lead at this point.
Oh, JR. Burning down ever so slightly, but again, the initial banana play doesn't really result in any frags. It kind of was early on. It was very, very messy, right? In the first half and beginning of the second half. Absolute bloodbaths, but not quite the case this time around. Gambit youngsters particularly taking a very passive stance to banana.
A bit of util over towards B, but for HELLRAISERS, it looks like they're trying to back off from this banana position. Maybe try and sell a little bit of a B fake and go into A. Now, one thing that HELLRAISERS have done a pretty good job at these last few rounds is obviously trying to bait out over rotations. And it seems like they're always hitting the site that is the less defended. In saying that, though, getting closer to 40 seconds on the clock, and there's still a couple of players at B to maybe sell a little bit more utility. The bomb, though, out through the apartments. Does anyone else rotate? Looks like for the CTs, they're quite happy to stay here at A.
Yeah, correct call as well. Oh, Axel able to get one traded back. Inter's down below. Ooh. They know he's there, and that's been massive that Kalinka's able to survive. Will lead to that save call coming in from the B players. So,
how has this happened?
Yeah, now we're really starting to get into the realms of doability for HELLRAISERS, to be honest with you. 3 rounds in it. Gambit youngsters probably going to be on a half buy at best next round, surrounding the AWP and the AK, of course. So, one more rifle round in it, it feels like. Crazy.
Getting a bit ridiculous, isn't it? Considering the fact that Gambit youngsters are up 12-3. Going into that second half, man, this is now 5 rounds in a row, I want to say, from HELLRAISERS. No, it might even be 6. It's a lot, however it is. And for Gambit youngsters, it's a bit of a slap in the face to say, right, guys, like, we need 1 round. It's not like we need 5 or we need 4. We need 1. It's not that many. And they're struggling. HELLRAISERS are really starting to bring this back. Seeing the one of the blue chickens on the ground, maybe giving them a little bit of hope.
The mascot.
Yeah.
Of course, the next HELLRAISERS rebrand.
Oh, don't start.
We've had quite a lot this year, haven't we? We've had quite a lot.
We have, yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Either way, the half buy for Gambit youngsters is indeed what they go for, so not putting all their chips in, but Shiro has that license to get aggressive successfully. Beautiful stuff. Finds the first. That is great for Gambit youngsters. Able to drop back. Takes no damage. I mean, he takes a bit of damage off the drop, but all the same. Solid, solid work. And HELLRAISERS going to keep moving towards this A bomb site. I suppose the AK is over towards B. They don't know that fact, but the very least, it does kind of hand its favor towards Hellraisers if they do hit A. They look very unsure, Dweg. They're just floating around, dipping back, moving through apartments. If they go for a pop here, I'm not sure that this is going to work for them. Oh, goodness, and they are. The AWP shot does miss from Shiro, but all these deagles surrounding the AWP, so very close. One angle gets overlooked, it could be deadly. Shiro doing his best to stay alive, and there it is. Inters drops the bomb at the feet of the CT. Shiro does get melted. Axile, though, coming in to cover his teammate. The rotations are here. The AK on its way. It's all onto Problem on 1 HP, and he can't get it done. That's the issue with the comeback, of course. You make that one mistake, that one slip-up drop, that one early frag, and the game falls with it.
Oh, you've got to feel for Hellraisers. You really do. Like, they've looked pretty decent to allow this comeback to come through, and then you lose to a round where you've got a single AWP and just Eagles on that CT side. So, look, disappointing coming out from Hellraisers. I suppose you can give them a bit of credit to say, well, they had a really poor first half, so the comeback was certainly going to be a really difficult time. I don't know mentally who it affects worse. Is it Gambit youngsters with the fact, guys, I can't believe that got so close? Or is it for Hellraisers sort of saying, we brought that so close, but yet we didn't close it out? So it's two very different sides. But look, for Gambit youngsters, I was really impressed with them in the first half. Maybe not so much in the second, but they get away with a victory. So looking into Dust 2, they've got to be feeling pretty comfortable now.
Yeah, I think so. It's gone well for them in the past. It seems to be a really good map for them at the minute with Hobbit in play as well. So yeah, I think a lot of confidence coming in. But now we don't necessarily completely write Hellraisers off because they pick things up towards the end and they could bring some of that momentum with them into Dust 2. But we'll find out, of course. We've got to head over to a quick little break. We'll be back in a few moments' time. Welcome back. Malta Vibes, we are here once again, of course. Map 2 on the horizon. Looking really, really good for Gambit youngsters, and then it takes them a fair amount of time to clean up Inferno there. So HELLRAISERS maybe not as flat as first thought. We'll see. We'll see. Dust 2 last time was kind of rough, so they're really going to have to prove a very different showing here this time around.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I don't know. I'm thinking of Dust 2, and I'm thinking, right, how is there a way back in here for HELLRAISERS? Because yeah, look, maybe you can make the exception. They got off to a bit of a slow start. They brought a little bit of a comeback through, but I just felt as if there were so many mistakes being made from that HELLRAISERS side, whether it was in terms of communication, in terms of positioning, and I feel like now going into a map where you've previously just been destroyed on, I think it's going to be a really tough time for them to come back in this series and try and take it to Vertigo.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It really is going to need them to turn things around from the last showing. The thing is, could have been on the day, could have been the matchup, could have just not, because I feel like HELLRAISERS are not a bad Dust 2 team. It's not like it is the map pick itself. So there's certainly a chance, don't get me wrong, but I just think Gambit youngsters seem to be on a bit of another level, and like the CT side was very disjointed from HELLRAISERS. Their T side seemed to be just sort of brute forcing their way in, and we can kind of argue it's hard to tell with Gambit youngsters, because you can look, if they start a habit of not being able to close maps out, but with that one you can say, okay, maybe a bit complacent, and it almost spiraled out of control. You know, it got a bit too hot to handle. They eventually find it, and the thing is, it's like the fashion in which they win the game. You know, it was a very weak buy from them, and yet they're able to take that over the line and whatnot. So there's a few question marks in there for HELLRAISERS, that maybe it's not quite as HELLRAISERS exploding and suddenly turning things around. I think there's also a portion of Gambit youngsters making a few mistakes in there as well.
Yeah, and I think for Dust 2, at least, when you go off a bit of a track record for this Gambit youngsters side, obviously you've got to take into account their sort of most recent roster move. But outside of their best of one loss today against Forza, this is a 13-map winning streak for them. And they've been able to put up some really decent results, like a win over Spirit on this map's very impressive. Simon as well, even Forza, you know, some top teams in the CIS scene. So, look, for Gambit youngsters, they certainly have a lot of positives, a lot of check marks going into the second map of the series, whereas for HELLRAISERS, it's not exactly like it's a poor map from them. They have been able to put up some decent results here or there, but it's still the fact that it was a 16-5 only a few days ago, which is probably, it's like the alarming one, you know, the one that's like shining the red light at me. So look, for HELLRAISERS, I'm hoping for a little bit more consistency. I'm hoping to see double AWPs on the CT side, you know, try and get Kalinka involved in that secondary AWP, get JR a little bit consistent, because man, that first half when he was on CT side defending long, he was just getting ripped apart every single round. He just needs to find a little bit more self-confidence and a little bit more consistency.
Yeah, you definitely feel for him. I think there was a bit of luck and, well, lack of for him involved, but it can be difficult to get your head around that as well, right? You really have to be able to bounce back and ignore it. And for the half, wasn't really the case. He did kind of step things up into the second half, I would say. And now moving into Dust 2, it's a fresh slate. And again, as we're saying, I don't think HELLRAISERS, because it does come a little bit close, we do see some life and energy from them. I don't think that they're going to be completely written off this time around, but we'll see. We'll see. Gambit youngsters, the ball very much in their court onto how they react. Of course, knife round just getting underway here. Is long can be kind of important. Seems to be still as it has been for a while, particularly with the Krieg, of course, being moved out of the meta. One of the most even maps in the pool, I think it's safe to say at this point. Kind of depends on the team and the level, but I feel overall, the objective picture for me is like a 60-40 weight towards that T side.
Yeah, look, it is a bit interesting, because most of the European teams, if they win knife on Dust 2, will probably pick CT. Whereas there's certainly a few CIS teams out there that like to start T. I mean, Hard Legion's definitely one. Forza as well, you can sometimes throw in there. I've even seen Gambit youngsters start up on T a fair bit. So it kind of just depends on the style of play. I mean, Forza and Hard Legion are a little bit more of an aggressive T-sided team, whereas for Gambit youngsters, we've seen a lot of slow passiveness, especially in that first map of Inferno. Like, there were even some rounds where, like, I mean, I was like falling asleep. I was like, man, it's been like a minute. I've seen no contact. I've seen no utility damage. I've seen hardly any map control. And it just comes down to the two styles of these two teams.
Well, into the action we go. Loot bet, of course, coming up. The odds even more heavily in favor of Gambit youngsters coming through onto this map. I believe it was about 1.4 and 3.
About there. Yeah, about there.
So yeah, and I mean, it's safe to say there's a lot more to go off of coming into this one for sure. The history between these two teams heavily favored in form of Gambit youngsters. Starting off on the T side of things as well, they've got a great B spawn, so they're just going to rush their way into it. We'll see whether they fully actualize this. No, they're going to slow things down, but still, it looks like B might be the end goal for the T side.
And they've got JR out towards the long position. And if he sort of keeps walking up, he's going to start to realize that there's not really too much here towards the A bomb site. Maybe if he can sell a little bit of a fake. Oh, what a shot coming out from Nafany. And now the B play is probably going to come out.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense. Looking pretty damn solid here. Smoke over the top. Hobbit finding another at backplat. They've got to deal with him quickly. He could be absolutely deadly here. He's just playing it nice and passive, actually. Inter's holding things down, and there you are, Hobbit with the quick one. Absolutely loving it. And I don't think they take a single point of damage there. At the very least, it was very, very little. No kill coming in, that's for sure. As, of course, I got baited out, as I always do, you know, the hood being backwards. Hopefully, should be swapped over for you. But yeah, it's Gambit youngsters picking up the pistol, not HELLRAISERS. Of course, a nicely timed pause to allow us a bit of time to do that. What great guys.
Well, that was... So JR just got absolutely destroyed at long. We saw Nafany just getting a straight one tap. And then from there, they're like, right, okay, let's go for the B side. XE, Hobbit just pops up, just instantly domes, and then just stays hiding. The car player then chimes into the action. Wow, that was over pretty quickly. And for HELLRAISERS, they tried to go for a B commitment. No bomb plant, no kills. Means that we shouldn't see a force. I'm hoping. They should just Glock it out. But whenever you're casting CIS teams, Scriv, sometimes you just never know.
Very true. Very true indeed. Looking to find the rifles as soon as possible here on the HELLRAISERS side of things, though. Kind of respect this, particularly on a map like Dust 2. I think you don't need as much utility as some of the other maps in the pool. So, indeed, pulling those AKs out and arguably having a stronger buy than Gambit youngsters, it's a pretty good mindset to go with. And I like that they are taking things a bit more reserved on the HELLRAISERS side, you know, and not allowing their emotions to dictate their decisions.
Oh, the Glocks looking to maybe see if they can just brute force their way into a site. And no matter where they go, it's certainly going to be difficult. Maybe in mid to B. 5 Glocks making their decision. It looks like they are going to try and sort of head a little bit of a focus over to this B bomb site again. There are going to be 2 defenders. Nafany with that MP9 up close and personal. Hobbit a little bit further back towards the backpack position. And that smoke's going to buy them a little bit more time. Even the spam coming through, you'd have to think that they're getting a little bit nervous now on the Ds. But trying to make their way in, Scriv.
Almost getting caught off a little bit there with the smoke in hand. Hobbit, though, also going to go down. No, Inters comes in to save him. He's good with the USP. Nafany only getting 1 from on high. Yeah, I thought Hobbit might have been a bit too wide with the smoke in hand. Maybe gets caught. It's actually Nafany who gets caught. But all good. No harm, no foul in the end. HELLRAISERS just kind of throwing themselves at it. Any damage is good damage in a round like that. And now they will move into what is shaping up to be a pretty strong buy, actually.
That's all right. You know, get the rifles up straight away. For Gambit youngsters, it was good to see that they didn't lose too many players there. We obviously saw Nafany going down to start the round off, but for Hobbit, it looked like he was going to get a little bit over-isolated, but the rotations coming in from mid really help out. HELLRAISERS. What do they buy up for JR? Can go for another rifle if he wants to. Yeah, go for another AK. They've actually got some pretty decent util out. Not often that you see like teams just full ecoing in that second round. I mean, obviously it makes a lot of sense with no bomb plant, but we're in a big force buy meta, especially in the tier 2 scene at the moment. And I think it just comes off the back of how strong some teams are when it comes to those like Deagles and CZs and Tech-9s and what have you. But fast out towards long, at least for a single T, and the City is looking like they wanted to try and take some control in the early round, but end up just backing off completely.
Oh, creeping their way out middle. Gonna try and maybe catch Axel, but he's savvy to the fact. Plays it nice and safe. Jump spotting over the top. Smoke coming in. As I feel they'll kind of ignore that anyway with their mid to B smokes, but up short, we very quickly have got Inters and Nafany looking to pull off a flank. Hobbit does go down maybe a bit too easily. The B bomb site very vulnerable here. Kalinka getting the better of Nafany as well. Inters plays it patient to find the trade, but the damage is already done. Ilium on the other end of things as well is going to find a couple frags. Clean stuff from him, but the round I think was said and done at that point. Inters now the only one left in a 1-on-4, and I think he is a bit unsure whether he's being flanked out or even if it's the A-bomb site in the end. There you go, wins that fight and should indeed be able to save, but HELLRAISERS get the first rifle round on the board.
I was looking a little bit tough there for Hobbit at B. Wasn't really sure whether he wanted to stay on the site or over-aggress, and ended up just pushing sort of the B doors, and from there HELLRAISERS just able to isolate him pretty easily. Enters trying to hold on to this AK, bringing it to the following round. And for HELLRAISERS, like that was the perfect timing to go for a mid to B play, because they took heavy, or at least put like a lot of presence towards long to start off the round for Gambit youngsters. They only had a single defender at B, a player in CT, and as soon as he smoked off, Hobbit's alone. Yeah, you've got the short players that are starting to aggress, but there's not really any way, especially when Hobbit gets taken out, there's not really a way that they can sort of chime in and assist in any kind of support. So round on the board for HELLRAISERS, and good to see that they're chiming in terms of, you know, getting involved into the game in the early stages, because that was something we certainly didn't see from them in that last map.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true. It's nice to see a change in pace, so to speak. I think we've got to be careful there. Actually does manage to find the frag. Shiro can't get away. I'm going to say with the only Deagle in play, maybe don't want to be testing fate, but all good. His confidence pays off. Meanwhile, over at long, should be easy. Yeah, I mean, the cleanup's fairly simple here. Inter's going to take a lot of damage through that smoke, and eventually falls to problem. Hobbit has found one on the USP, and now he has the chance to save an AK, but very quick round from HELLRAISERS once again. Does make sense, right? Trying to overwhelm. They're keeping good track of the economy early on, and will find themselves that quick, even scoreline.
He's going to try and hold on to this AK. But you've got to think there are some hungry HELLRAISERS that want to take that out. They have all left the bomb site. I mean, they know where Hobbit is, but they're all looking. They are all looking to try and take this AK out of play. Hobbit will fire him once. Does do a little bit of damage to the T-sided economy, but he's not going to be any able to do any more than that. Going down. Money line, a little bit awkward for Shiro and Hobbit. But they'll be able to still force the issue, get the rifles up for the rest of the teammates. And HELLRAISERS, looking at the buy from the CTs, is actually not a bad shout for the Ts to be able to take the lead here.
Well, we'll see. Ooh, they are gambling pretty hard here with the long hit, though, on the Gambit youngster side. 4 players going in.
Ooh.
Nice kill onto Kalinka. Really solid stuff. Look how much fire there is over there. Meanwhile, that info comes through. They kind of have an idea here on the HELLRAISERS side that maybe it is indeed, you know, most of the team towards long there. Oh, the timing for Nafany. Almost perfect, but not quite. Meanwhile, Hobbit playing aggressive on the edge of the smoke. Needed that frag. That's the bomb dropped. Not sure I'm a massive fan of the bomb being isolated. Shiro, I would imagine, on top of the smoke, taking down problem. It's now a 5-on-2 for HELLRAISERS to recover back. And like I say, the bomb is down this round, firmly in the hands of Gambit youngsters.
That's such a smart play from Hobbit too. He's realized he's been isolated on B quite a few times so far in Dust 2, that the only way he gets out of that, considering that he already knows that they've taken mid to B control, is right, I need to aggress. I need to get into the apartments. If it means I need to take a gunfight, then so be it. He's able to take down JR, drops that bomb. Bomb plan will come in for HELLRAISERS, but a 2-on-5 post plan, it is going to be a very difficult time for these guys to hold on to it. A fair bit of utility for the CTs to work with. Flashbang coming out. They know exactly where Flarage is. Liam, they don't know just quite yet, but can have a bit of a gut feeling. They're starting to take their time. Molotov out towards the back of the plat. Flarage needs to swing out to the open. Only finding one kill. Liam's now last one left. 1 on 4. Not going to be able to find anything, so GAMBIT Youngsters going to get onto that defuse, pick up a 3rd round. One of the best rounds we've seen from them yet on Dust 2. Look at the amount of AKs they've picked up too.
Yeah, money. Absolute money for GAMBIT Youngsters, and it was kind of in that area as well, like you were saying. There's potential for HELLRAISERS to take the lead, really expand that lead as well, because there wouldn't have been money available for GAMBIT here. So key round, kind of a key round. It's early, it doesn't have the biggest ripple effect, but it certainly would have set HELLRAISERS up in pretty good stead. Still have a chance to do so, as they do have a bye coming into this round, but GAMBIT Youngsters just kind of keeping them at bay, just making sure that they are still the ones in control overall. Another fast start to this round. Oh, and Flarich going to drop Axile. Smoke was in hand for his partner. Inter's not able to find that trade. And a nice early opener for HELLRAISERS.
That's very aggressive from HELLRAISERS in a few starts of these T-side rounds, going pretty quick up through short. We see Flarich just wide swinging out from the longhouse. And continuation of the play through short. Shiro with a teammate backed up of Inters. A player has dropped down into CT. Nafany, though, has been able to find a couple of kills, and now this round has started to turn around.
Yeah, that's made things a bit spicy, hasn't it? Hobbit, meanwhile, that B anchor, he's been playing really well, to be fair to him. Continues to do so. And HELLRAISERS tried quickly to stem the bleeding. Actually, they've just made the wound worse now. A 4 versus 2. Flarich and JR looking to move back towards A, I guess. They don't really have too much working out for them here. A push up from Shiro. Oh, might be able to catch them. Bouncing around. JR almost takes him down. Not ready for the second here. So Flarich at the very least getting the trade, but Flarich's position now known. And he just doesn't fancy his chances. Going to pick up the AWP and move to save it.
And I'll tell you what, like being a B anchor on Dust 2, especially if your solos are holding the site, it's tough. It's a really tough position to hold. And for Hobbit, maybe he hasn't been able to find the most amount of kills. That's a really sharp shot from Flarich. But he's been able to hold off a really great defensive at B. Because for the most part, B on Dust 2, especially if you're trying to like take long control on the city side, for T's, it's probably not hit as much as the A bomb site, definitely in terms of a percentage. So the fact that HELLRAISERS have already put this much presence over towards B in what, like 3 or 4 of these rounds so far in this first half, and Hobbit has been able to do as much work as he has, 9 and 3. They've done a really good job, and that's going to give him a bit of confidence as well going into this series.
Yeah, it could be a really good game for him. It's got the potential anyway. And I hope it is, because I want to see a Hobbit performance of old and justify this move into the team, if I'm honest. Nonetheless, HELLRAISERS starting off fast, just grouping up outside of B here. Hobbit baiting out that utility. I think they're very aware of the fact that he is by himself, hence why they're going for a move like this. 3-man boost as well. Oh, almost. They're taking their time. If, you know, Flarich, maybe if it was JR on the AWP, Flarich certainly looking a little uncomfortable on that attempt, but all the same, it's a nice idea. Might see a bit more of that in the future. Keep an eye on it, GAMBIT Youngsters. HELLRAISERS, though, missing the shot, have now decided to move and give the A-bomb site a go, maybe, or perhaps a mid burst. I feel like with no utility, going mid is suicide, but all the same, they will indeed move towards A.
They've got to deal with Shiro, though. They've still got another HG. If this is put down perfectly, this could do a lot of damage. Oh, completely evades them. It goes too far. GAMBIT Youngsters have not really been able to do anything with this utility.
Okay, this is kind of interesting. They have themselves a lead. They're going to get the bomb plant in just a few moments here. There is still that AWP in play as well that could be absolutely deadly on this retake. They know the position of Axile, Inters, Nafany, both going to chime in. All these players coming from CT are making mincemeat out of the unarmored opponents. And there you are, Flarich going to get taken out from the side. So, 5th round for GAMBIT Youngsters. However, I feel HELLRAISERS can be happy with a kill and a bomb plant.
Yeah, it's not bad at all, is it? I suppose they do give up a secondary AWP. That's one thing that makes it a bit awkward, is that they've now given up an AWP over to the CT side. And obviously, big partners over at hellcase.com, giving you guys at home a fantastic couple of codes to use. Malta V, Malta V15, get a little bit of cash in your account and a 15% refill bonus. Open up some sick cases and get some sick skins. They've got them for all different price ranges too, Scriv. You know, you got the expensive one for your big tier items, you know, all your knives and your dragon laws and what have you. Then the smaller tier ones. So, yeah, certainly go and check them out. You can check out all the information underneath the Twitch channel in the banners. But to start off round number 8, it's been a little bit interesting. It's a one-on-one trade. And for HELLRAISERS, it seems like every single round now on the T side, at least in the early round, they like to get hyper aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it works really well, sometimes not so much. It does seem recently GAMBIT Youngsters getting a read on it. The flash is good, but the attempt to the frag's kind of broken. Shiro traded back by Flarich as well. So it is all on to Flarich. He can't get it done, though. Nafany on that secondary AWP is solid. 6th round for GAMBIT Youngsters. It seems that quick rollover, the signs of it are beginning. So I feel that HELLRAISERS really do need to make a change. Probably not going to come in this round, but in the next one, they really need to be finding success. Excuse me.
And what were we talking about in the pre-game before this map started? Oh, we want to see a little bit more consistency from JR. He was really struggling towards long on that city side. He's 0-0-6, 8 rounds deep. You know, that's like a very scary factor for me, is the fact that your in-game leader and your main AWPer is struggling heavily to start off this T side. That's really not what you want to see from him. Oh, a bit of damage done onto Nafany. Just an eco buy to come up from HELLRAISERS. So GAMBIT Youngsters shouldn't get too nervous here. You should be able to clean it up pretty easily. A bit of a play, maybe to split into this A-bomb side, taking some short control with a few players with the bomb outside of long. Axel's actually very aggressive. He could maybe get punished for his aggression. HELLRAISERS just seeing if they can do some damage.
Yeah, that's what this one is all about. I mean, they found a decent amount of success the last time out. The bomb plant, once again, would be really, really good for them. Return on the investment, for the most part. Some of them have spent a fair amount. Flarich fairly rich, finding a good number of frags in these recent rounds. Other than that, just a number of deagles. Ooh, problem. Going to take down Shiro. JR falling. Flarich gets the better of Hobbit after a really awkward fight. Intis is going mad with the AWP on the other side of the map, I guess. Nafany as well, chiming in. Not just Shiro that can AWP on this side, it appears. He might eventually go down here. Low HP, but no. Peeks up at the perfect time to drop Kalinka. And GAMBIT Youngsters once again weathering the storm of the half-buy.
I bet they're having a good laugh about that too. The fact that Inters and Nafany just go absolutely huge with the AWP when they've got a main AWP of Shiro. They're just... Wow, that is pretty unexpected. We saw some pretty good shots there. And I think you mentioned as well, Scriv, you know, the fact that, you know, these guys, the youngs, they're all like mates. A bit of banter. I don't know, like, whether there's like Russian banter. I don't know if that's like a thing like the typical English banter, but they're having a bit of a laugh at the moment, because you've got to think for this game, right? Get a simple 2-0, ride that momentum, because MIBR's up next to FaZe. So if you're struggling against HELLRAISERS or vice versa, it's going to be a struggle against the next game.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, right? There's a lot to be done here this evening, not just this one series. This is keeping them alive. The playoffs still up in the air. So, yeah, I think breezing past HELLRAISERS, particularly on your own map pick, is, I would say, maybe a requirement. MIBR definitely looking vulnerable, but not an easy challenge at all. HELLRAISERS, though, we talked about, this needs to be the round where they make a change. JR on the AWP, love to see that. Plenty of utility. The buy, not the excuse. Oh, it's just going to be the play itself. That nade is pretty fat. Tagging 2 players down massively is really nice for GAMBIT Youngsters that early on into the round.
That was a bit of a chunky nade. That does a hell of a lot of damage onto Problem and Liam. And for HELLRAISERS now, where do they go from here? They've got to lurk out towards the B bomb site that's using a little bit of utility, maybe trying to go in for a mid to B split. Now, GAMBIT Youngsters are actually playing 2 players at this B bomb site this time around, rather than just Hobbit as a solo player. And yeah, this is going to be a B split.
Nafany getting a little baited out. Hobbit needs to go large, and he does. The double definitely required there. Triple for Hobbit as well. Lovely stuff. JR going to be the only one left. I was going to say, yeah, if he lets Nafany go down like that, he needs to be finding all these frags, and he will. Not missing a single shot. Huge 4K in for the big man. Up to 14. Having a great game. Having a great game indeed. But yeah, Nafany really getting thrown to the wolves, but it's all good, right? If Hobbit's able to stand strong. If he'd have gone down instantly, then maybe we have somewhat of a problem, but all the same. In the end, it goes the way of Gambit youngsters pretty heavily.
Oh, he's fragging like a teenager. He's like the older brother to these guys. I mean, a big age difference for some of them, about 6 or 7 years. But yeah, wow, that was an insane hold at that B-bomb side from Hobbit. He's really stepping up, and I think he's yet, Scriv, to have like a big game for this Gambit youngsters side. This really could be the series.
Okay, Kalinka though, finding an opener. He's not able to escape. Back into a 4-on-4. Quick boost up onto the site coming through for Shiro. Deadly beat, but he gets the flick, of course. Hobbit to back him up. Hobbit is hungry for the frags at the moment. The 4-on-2 coming in. A great read from Gambit youngsters on this rotation. Scout shot misses. JR with the desperate no-scope attempt. Not going to happen. Flarich continues to kind of be consistent, I suppose, but in the end to no avail. Gambit youngsters up to 9. Double digits looking very, very likely, as well as the T's don't have enough to buy anything substantial.
You know what is scary, Scriv? The fact of when we saw these two guys in 9-5-3 a few days ago, and it was a 16-5 win for Gambit youngsters over HELLRAISERS. It was a 12-3 half on the T side to start off the map for Gambit youngsters. They're on CT, and they're doing this already. Oh, okay. There's a response from Flarich. Now they might just go into B, knowing the fact that there's probably only one defender, and even for Hobbit, he's starting to move out of the site itself. Okay, what is going on now, Scriv? We are seeing everyone start to step up in this round here. We've seen some really sharp kills to come through. Now, there is still a lurk towards the A bomb site. Shiro deals with Flarich, meaning Problem and Kalinka. Last couple left. 2-on-4. Look, they got a bomb plant. They get a little bit of extra money. Hobbit is really starting to come alive. 19 kills and just 4 deaths. He's looking for his 20th. And, oh, well, he's not quite going to get the 20th just yet. But, man, Flarich to start off, and then Hobbit to return, and then a round victory for Gambit youngsters.
Yeah, I mean, brilliant stuff, right? There's still time for Hobbit to keep performing this well. And I feel like we're all here for it. Really good stuff across the board from him. Gambit youngsters certainly, though, looking scary. And after a rough end, I think it is safe to say, it's really good to see them coming back into kind of what we know from them. Hobbit seems to be fitting in fairly well. This map, for them, I would say is at the same kind of level that it was at before, to be honest. Maybe against higher caliber opponents when they're really tested, but when they're on that even playing field, they look really, really good on it. We did see something similar to this, though, on Inferno, and it took them, as we've said, a long time to clean things up. Hobbit needs to be very careful in and around this smoke. Oh, they're going to run straight past him, and of course he gets them both. Beautiful stuff. Bit of luck on his side right there. Lady Luck definitely looking over his shoulder, but all the same, beautiful double. Gambit youngsters once again, solid advantage to start off.
Mate, Hobbit, I'm just, it's making me smile, the fact that he's fragging this well, because he's been under a lot of criticism since joining this side. You know, he hasn't been able to, at least statistically, go up to the likes of Supra, but man, is he absolutely popping off on the anchor as the B bomb site on Dust 2. Enters, just catches a Kalinka running into CT. Like, what even is that? Like, what is he trying to achieve there? I don't understand that play whatsoever. I don't know what Kalinka's thinking. He's got a teammate towards short, a teammate that's got long house control, and he's just running through CT.
Yeah, I'm not sure, dude. I think they're frustrated. The tilt seems to be setting in, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
So, and this is maybe one of the major issues within this team as well, is the fact that they seem to be letting the emotions really, really get to them. Whether they're good or bad, we saw on Inferno, they start to get a bit of confidence in their favor, and they started rolling and really look good. But now it's sort of the opposite, where it's not going very well and they're making these questionable decisions.
And for HELLRAISERS, you're probably thinking that it's looking like it's pretty much definite that they're going to come last in their group now for week 2, 3, 6, and 8 of Malta Vibes. They've been able to make playoffs every single time. It was only week 1 that they placed 3rd in their group, but now it's looking like their worst placing yet, unless they can somehow start to turn this around. A fast play up from short for a couple of players, pretty quick indeed. Follow-up utility, though, from the City side is going to stop the rush, stop the early offensive. And 2 players on the site itself for the Gambit youngsters, and Shiro with the AWP, Nafany too. HELLRAISERS, they're just looking for a way back in, Scriv.
Yeah, I mean, they need anything at this point, really. Give them a bone. Axile chilling. Feeling cheeky on the dig. He's been loving taking those peeks, actually, at the long doors with the deagle, although of course he does have a rifle to play with, but I guess it's a bit easier to go for a drive-by one deag than it is with the AK. I don't know, his philosophy, not mine. All the same, it does appear they're gonna have some action. Ooh, over at long. Missed shot. No, it actually lands onto Problem, to be fair. But he's able to stay alive. Long, slightly isolated here, and as you can see, 1-for-1 coming in. They can be happy with that on the T side. Nafany also going to fall. Inters, though, up close and personal. Problem not ready for him. Playing to the sensors. You know, he runs in a little bit, then walks for the rest while there's all the shots, while there's all the smokes ringing out. And it's sort of a backwards hold here, a shortwards hold. Great shot coming through. Shiro going to drop. 3 versus 2 now as the bomb plant is successful. Inters able to drop the planter, so still definitely doable, and Hobbit comes in, of course, doing what Hobbit's been doing all game long. Flarich to clutch things up in the 1-on-2, finds the first. Second does not escape him, as he will clutch up for that 3rd round. HELLRAISERS finally able to put a stop. Is it going to be enough? I don't want to hype it up too much. It's definitely nice for them, but there's still a lot more work to be done.
You look at Inters and Hobbit, they've put up 39 kills between them, and they've had, what, like 9 deaths? Like, it's just been a wild amount. They've probably got more kills than the entire HELLRAISERS side combined. And yeah, look, this big round coming out from Flarich, a 1-on-2 clutch, means a lot for the HELLRAISERS camp, but they need to be able to capitalize on that. They need to be able to find their 4th. Pretty quick out from mid. There's not really anyone here to defend the mid position. Only a single AWP to come out for Gambit youngsters in round 15. And they're already pretty deep in this mid commitment.
Gonna go for it. Oh!
What? They were all blind!
Oh, God. Oh, no. Oh, my goodness. Gambit youngsters can just do no wrong.
How? How does that actually happen, Scriv? You've got Inters and Shiro that are at A, and they're just spamming through the smoke, and they find all the correct bullets at the right... That's unreal. I'm lost for words. What do you even say about that? HELLRAISERS, if it was the side defenders at B, I'd say, okay, fair enough. They had no vision. That was all through smoke.
Yeah, just going for it. Just going for it. And I guess HELLRAISERS, their fault there is being too heavily stacked and maybe a bit too predictable. The smokes go down, they immediately start moving rather than giving it a second, letting that spray come in. Still, though, the tilt factor playing in, they're definitely going to be annoyed with that one. A great shot from JR, however, to at the very least give them the site control. They should be able to plant quite comfortably. Last round of the half, so Gambit youngsters aren't bothered about the extra cash that gives you and whatnot. 4-on-2 still coming in. 3 of them from CT short area. Axile is waiting for them to be distracted. Finds the first. Hobbit catches the second. Gambit youngsters continue to do what they've been doing all game long. We'll find that 12th round little dicey towards the end, but ultimately very, very clean stuff whole way through. It was their half, and this is what happened on Inferno.
Yeah.
Took them a long time to close it out. This time, I'm going to give them a bit more confidence and say that they should be able to close it out cleanly. The likelihood of HELLRAISERS coming back in after a poor T side in the same way is very, very slim, I feel.
I just want to see the odds. I want to see the odds from Loopet. I want to see like how one-sided they are. But yeah, like for Inters dying 3 times in 15 rounds is just like, how has this happened? But look, for Gambit youngsters, you're right. You know, they did choke it a little bit. It did take them a little bit of a while to close out that second half on Inferno. I don't think it's going to be as much of a problem coming out on the T side. Maybe if they lose pistol, then we could see a bit of an exciting comeback from HELLRAISERS. And it's out towards long for both teams, really. 2 players here on the CT side, 4 stacked up in the longhouse position. Looks like an Xbox smoke to come down for Nafany. A Gambit youngsters. Surely they've got to check this pit position of Kalinka.
Well, one would assume. Liam allowing them out. Kalinka getting flashed out. However, not peeking until the time is right, and it's absolutely perfect. Great secondary flash as well. The flicks coming through from Kalinka. Pit is his playground as he manages to find 3. The 4th surely going to come here, just spamming away. I mean, he doesn't know, but Hobbit's only on 13 HP. It'd be an easy one for him. Hobbit actually takes him down. But all the same, a clean pistol from HELLRAISERS.
Oh, it was pretty easy. All it came down to was Kalinka play pit. I'm going to flash, you peek, and kill. And that's pretty much what happened. Flash comes up. Peek, 1, 2, couple of kills, drops a bomb, secondary flash. They're just so blind again, gets a 3rd kill, and he's like, oh, I want more, I want more, I want a 4th kill. And it doesn't happen. But, wow. And wow, okay. I'll tell you what, Scriv, I wouldn't be betting on HELLRAISERS to bring this back. But at the same time, for Gambit youngsters, at 1.01, like, yeah, you're not going to get much return there.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty damn obvious. It does make a lot of sense with the position that they're in. But HELLRAISERS, once again, relatively good start to the second half. Should be able to win this one nice and clean. We're also seeing Gambit youngsters employ that passive Dust 2 eco on the T side. You know, maybe a little niche in and of itself. And it has started creeping in. There's been a few teams that have been employing philosophy like this in general for quite some time. Teams like Apex really don't like force buying in the second round.
Yeah.
Love to get the rifles out as soon as possible. So it seems like it's creeping in places. And like I say, on Dust 2, it makes a lot of sense. T side don't need as much utility to get rolling. And you can have your individuals, you know, you can have that round where it's like, okay, it's an earlier rifle round. We're either early in the game or we have a lead like they do here. And they're like, let's just rush in and give it a go. License to play more aggressive.
Ooh.
Okay, this has become a bit more interesting. The Glocks have found a couple kills. I figured Axile was just going to go down, to be honest, particularly on the scout, but not the case. Oh, my goodness, coming awfully close. Just gonna actually lands that shot onto Flaric, but Kalinka's nice and close to deny him the round. Still, though, with everything that we've just said, right, they get a bit of kill bonus. They've eliminated 4 players. They get the bomb down. HELLRAISERS buy is going to be terrible. Meanwhile, Gambit youngsters, they've got like 5k across the board.
Yeah, they could drop it up for Shiro if they want. Man, that's insane. That really is. And yeah, no, like that round, in terms of the damage they did, was almost like they had a force buy. And yeah, you're right. The small amount of times I've casted Apex, one of those teams that don't force at all. They're here in the playoffs already. I think they came in from Group B yesterday. They were able to put up some pretty decent performances. And of course, no team will make it into the playoffs just yet after winning off this best of 3. They will have MIBR again to face off against in the next series. This is the Group C bracket, so still do have another group tomorrow. And Gambit youngsters, even going into round 19, it's just, or round 18, I should say, already off to a really good start. Shiro taking a fair bit of damage, but he finds that opening kill. And he spoke about the buy being, well, at least the economy being correct. You've got an MP9 up for Problem and a FAMA for JR. You want to get the M4s, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah. It's a rough, like, direct beginning to the round, and then it's a rough first exchange as well. So, really not the result they were looking for, and the hope of coming back in the same way that they did on Inferno is kind of dwindling. The flame very, very, very faint at the moment. I like this, though. Getting Kalinka with that M4 in a good position. As soon as they hear a bit of action, Flash comes in. He'll clear out short. But there's no one really there. There's no opportunity for him to find a frag, and then he's mollied back. So kind of back to square one here for the CT side. JR joins him, though. They'll continue to push forwards, continue to try and find themselves some kind of a way in. At the moment, not looking too good. Hobbit, though, creeping through, confident in himself, and just playing it by himself. Maybe a bit too giddy. Way too ahead of the rest of the squad. They look to clean up. Will they be able to do so? No! Kalinka in with 3. Brilliant stuff. Axel also falling. Shiro the only one left. It all falls apart. And it does, indeed, for me, come off of the fact that maybe Hobbit is a bit too fast. We'll see. Shiro is capable of rounds like this. There's no time, of course. Got away from me. I do apologize, but all the same. I would just, you know, in my mind's eye, I'm like, here we go. Prepare for another Shiro clutch, but there's just no time.
And for Flarich as well, I don't know how many of the viewers were keeping an eye on it, but he was hiding in the pit position for so long, and it wasn't until one of the team members got really close to the site was when he finally picked up and was able to sort of put it into that 1vx situation. And I tell you what, it's almost like we've got a mirror and we're looking at Inferno. It is exactly how things turned around for HELLRAISERS, where, you know, they put a bit on the board, they got a bit of contention, they got to double digits, they made things interesting before GAMBIT youngsters are able to start to run away with it. But you've got to think in a buy like this, you know, Shiro holding onto the AWP in that last round, some upgraded deagles, yeah, maybe they can do some damage. A walkout from mid, no utility yet, so hardly any information's been taken.
Oh, crept out middle, though, and a little under the radar. He was able to get one, but he's isolated, and they take him down. The 1-for-1 trade there is actually kind of big for GAMBIT youngsters. Meanwhile, Kalinka's in this passive spot, waiting for them to come. Don't worry, I'll get the crazy double spray down when they walk past me. But of course, they've backed off. They're moving into a different angle. Gonna hit short instead. Smoke's coming in, flashes over the top, dropping towards CT. Kalinka does get one on the edge of the smoke. Flarich in a great position at ramp as well. Double for him. And Shiro will be the only one left. Nice shot onto Kalinka. Looking for another. Knows where Flarich is at, but Flarich giving himself room to work with off the back of the smoke. The bomb down on that A-bomb site. And Shiro is really stuck for ideas, I think, and may well be looking to save once again. I feel like with 30 seconds left, he's moving away from the bomb rather than towards it. Oh! Just drop another. I mean, his scopes are awfully quick, dude, but, like, he just doesn't fancy his chances.
Yeah, he's out of that. There's not really much that he can do. Yeah, he's really sharp. He's a really good player. And I think in, like, Tier 2 Counter-Strike, we've had some pretty standout AWPers start to come through this year. I think Marcos from the Aves side's been pretty impressive. Who else is there? Got MHL on AGO. He's probably dropped off a little bit, but I think like towards the early parts of this year was a big contender.
Yeah, some of the Polish AWPers are pretty impressive. Hades was looking good against their MIBR
yes.
game.
Yeah, that's true. He's decent. It's good to see some of like the younger talents coming up, getting a little bit more of a spotlight on them too. I do feel as if, though, especially for the CIS players, you know, not too much of like a social media presence sometimes puts a little bit less of a spotlight on you from, I don't know, other competition and what have you. But yeah, no, sort of keen to sort of see where the careers continue for these GAMBIT youngsters side again. They're just so young. I mean, it's in the title, but you'd have to think their careers are going to go for quite some time, Scrove.
Yeah, I would hope so. Get to follow them would be nice as well, you know, see how they do when they're in those major finals.
Yeah, give it a few years.
Yeah. Well, GAMBIT youngsters struggling to find their first round so far in this second half. HELLRAISERS once again kind of pulling things back, getting a bit of momentum. GAMBIT youngsters managed to just about plug it, but when we were worried, GAMBIT youngsters were up to 15. So far, they're yet to pick up a round. So if HELLRAISERS win another rifle round and perhaps a subsequent one after this, it could be even worse for them. But we'll see. The A-bomb site left very, very open by HELLRAISERS. It's going to be a 5-on-5 as the bomb goes down, which is somewhat rare, particularly on a map like Dust 2 that tends to be a bit faster, a bit crazier. And they're fully playing for the retake. I'm not sure if I'm a massive fan of this decision.
They've really slowed it down. They've only got a single kit onto Kalinka too, so if he goes down, they'll need to be keeping an eye out where that kit is. The player of Axel, who was towards top mid when that post plant came through, hasn't seen anything, so he's able to call out the information. It's either CT or long. Shiro looking to try and take a peek, and it just really comes down to this utility, trying to defend off of the short players. Hobbit and Nafany chiming together. Hobbit as well going to find a secondary kill, showing up on the T side like he did on CT. And this round is done. Yeah, it's not too often you kind of see like a 5-on-5 retake position for the HELLRAISERS camp. Oh, Nafany just escapes, but then he's got JR to deal with.
Lil spicy. Of course, Gambit youngsters called them out for not winning their first round, and then they manage, of course, to do it as soon as I do call them out. So the caster's curse working for good, I guess. All the same, really looking solid. The fact that HELLRAISERS managed to save, very important to their buy coming into this round. It's still not ideal, but it gives them a bit more to work with. Faster round from Gambit youngsters, this time towards long. And well, HELLRAISERS went for the gamble B play. 2 in through lower, 2 in through the tunnels themselves. No one there, of course, and now the A-bomb site is under threat. Rotations will come in nice and fast. But Gambit youngsters, they got long control, they're just chilling. They got a minute and a half to work with. They're going to play it patiently and see how it unfolds.
Unfortunately for Gambit youngsters, the slower this comes, the worse it comes, because they've already got 4 players on the city side stacked up at this A-bomb site. You've got a backstab player coming in from, I believe that's Liam. Even a like little boost over the smoke to get JR, a little bit of damage with this M4. The walk up for the T's towards this A-bomb site.
Oh my goodness, there's so many of them on both sides of these smokes. About to be a bloodbath, and it's a bloodbath that's going the way of Gambit youngsters entirely, in fact. Wow, not losing a single player. I honestly thought that could be messy for them, but it ends up being messy for HELLRAISERS. 14 rounds for Gambit youngsters, no money for HELLRAISERS. I feel they're the type of team to just try and go for this, but once again, a hefty comeback is required.
Well, that force bar didn't really work, did it? That was... They were set up really nicely. They had some really great positions at the backstab coming in, but it was just a lot of chaos. There were so many players that were so close to one another, and Gambit youngsters just went out so many fights. Azus, I think it's just USPs, and it's a short stack to come out from HELLRAISERS. Oh, Shiro's ready. Oh, no, he's not. He was. Now he's got another teammate that's ready. Oh, Intus is ready.
Oh, I like the little bait and switch. And he's only able to get one. I'd say that's a decent enough result for HELLRAISERS. And now they hightail it back towards that A site. But of course, the information in here, at the very least, right? That's the trade-off that comes through. And short, non-approachable. One will go down. Liam's found himself an AK to work with, so he'll probably move away to save that, and the rest of the team just going to look to find some damage. So going the way that we would expect. Gambit youngsters set to come out on top. Any more kills here would be nice. Oh, the Zeus. Oh, close. Close, but not close enough, of course. And well, with that frag onto Flarich, that'll be the round because the AK is on the other side of the map. So 15 in, and now 8 in a row required for HELLRAISERS to stay alive in this week's Malta Vibes Cup.
I tell you what, that Zeus kill was probably more exciting than the fact that HELLRAISERS are probably not going to be able to come back. You know, I was really like hoping there. I was hoping, you know, a bit of excitement for HELLRAISERS, you know, something to have a bit of a laugh about, a bit of a joke, because yeah, this Dust 2 has been rough. I mean, JR and Problem, 3 kills for JR and 6 for Problem. There's some really low numbers. Well, especially when you've got Hobbit with like 32 on the D side. So it is a very big comparison in terms of the kill numbers. And you know, stats don't mean everything all the time, Scriv, but it's certainly a pretty big indication on this second map.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's see what they've got. Fast Cat coming in. Ooh, Shiro. A missed shot from him. A little uncharacteristic. It comes at the right time for HELLRAISERS. Kalinka going to find the opener. Meanwhile, it looks like the bomb and the team going to be headed towards B here. Great flashes in from Flarich, though, as he will deal himself. And now a 5-on-3. HELLRAISERS looking good to cling on for another round.
Yeah, I like that from HELLRAISERS. Very aggressive up through mid to find that opening kill. Shiro missing that AWP duel, trying to go quick into the B bomb site. Great flashes, great utility usage. And even for Lime, who's pressed up really aggressively, if he starts to extend any further, you get a bit of information. But looks like for the T's, trying to see if they can go out through mid. And Anthony to answer back, and this is when Lime starts to go, and he's right behind them.
Needs to be successful here, right? This is key position. Yeah, they have no idea. Gonna get the double as well. Brilliant stuff. All left onto Axile. Not looking too good for him. And Lime, there you go, is able to drop him as well. The 3K coming through. 8th round for HELLRAISERS. They do indeed manage to convert it, and there you will. Stay alive a little while longer. I mean, it's still a long road ahead, and there is a lot of money available for Gambit youngsters, but it's nice to see them picking up some consolation rounds.
And I can't remember what round we were at on the first map, but Gambit youngsters are on 15 for a little bit. They were there for a little while. HELLRAISERS just trying to see if they can go down with a bit of dignity. A fast out from long, CT side, not really putting too much of a contest up. Inters is making his way out of the gate. Flourish goes aggressively, and it worked out in the last round, but not quite the same in round 24.
Yeah, problematic. HELLRAISERS losing control, losing men. They will manage to chime back in for a couple, though. Nice little response from them. Bomb's going to go down for Gambit youngsters, so there is that to keep their money expanded, but they've lost the man advantage. So much damage coming in onto some of these players as well. JR with a great shot, and now we'll be left in a 4-on-2. The CTs surely able to convert this. They need to, unless one of these two players for Gambit youngsters is able to pop off. Would have to be in pretty fancy fashion, but all the same. HELLRAISERS taking their time, I have to say. We'll start to move forwards. First frag comes in for Nafany. Hobbit the only one left now. Trying to find the heads, but can't. And the defuse will come in just in time. 9th round for HELLRAISERS on the board.
Okay, that was getting a little bit scary, but look, for the HELLRAISERS camp, they're able to get the defuse through, hold on to the double AWP, so they're not losing a massive amount of investment on the CT side. They'll be disappointed that obviously they're not able to pick up the AKs, but obviously the AWPs being more valuable, of course you want to be holding on to them. And Gambit youngsters did sort of delay quite a lot of time in that post barn. It seemed like it was pretty slow from HELLRAISERS, but with the kits being able to get the defuse through, putting their 9th round up on the board. Now, we've seen a lot of aggression coming out from the CT side, especially in these last few rounds. It's the Ts that are going for something very quick, especially Hobbit up through short.
They're going to try and answer back with a bit of anger here. Not really resulting in an awful lot, though. Goes back down to that slower pace that we've known from Gambit youngsters throughout their T side. Oh, Shiro going to open up onto Kalinka, though, via middle, playing at Palm Tree. Would be the classic call out for that one. Of course, it's like barrels now, but all the same. Able to find that first frag. 5-on-4 coming in. That's actually really good for Gambit.
The days of the palm tree and maybe the days of HELLRAISERS being over, because there's only one defender at this B bomb side. Problem needs to come up absolutely massive. There's the first kill and the second. He needs to find a little bit more, but he's already done so much work that the rotations have come in and the CTs have just shut this down. What a hold coming out from Problem. Can he find even more in the round? He can't. Nafany's going to be able to take him out. A 1-on-2, waiting for a wide swing, and now it's a 1-on-1. Don't tell me this is going to happen. Nafany!